If you could snap your fingers and in the next 24 hours achieve whatever nutritional health goal you have at the moment, what would that goal be? Have you ever thought that that's something like an Amazon order and that we are putting these unrealistic expectations on us and that is actually sabotaging our success and our progress? I mean, it would be pretty awesome if we could just press send and within a day or two, our goals are here present with us and we've actually achieved them. But when it does come to nutrition and to health, that isn't reality and it's not realistic. And when we put these unrealistic Amazon Prime sort of expectations on our achievements, I find that it puts us in that position where we give up and we get demotivated and we get frustrated because we haven't achieved it fast enough. Because our bodies aren't like that and we do need to be patient. A lot of the time, the changes that we are trying to create in our life, they're changes that they do take time and they are changes that happen incrementally in small amounts. So with weight loss, for example, I see a lot of clients who want to lose weight, and this may have been weight that they've gained over the past 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Maybe at the rate of half a kilo or maybe a kilo every year over that period of time, but they want to lose it next week. So I'm always trying to challenge people about how realistic are your goals and are the steps that you're putting in place sustainable for you? Because a lot of times when people are trying to lose weight or making these changes in their lifestyle, they're making these extreme overnight sort of changes that they can't stick with. They might be able to stick with them for a week or two when life is in control and life is all good and there's no stress and no work and no chaos going on. The second the chaos and reality enters back into their life, then everything stops and everything goes on hold. So when we are looking at making our changes, the results that we want take time, they take commitment, they take dedication, perseverance again and again and again and again. Sticking with the plan and sticking with these tiny little changes in a way that we can consistently adhere to for the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 years. And that's why my framework I find so useful for people when they are or they aren't cycling, because it's adaptable to whatever is going on in your real world. You've got your everyday nutrition, you've got your training nutrition, and you've got your race nutrition. They're all interlinked, but they're separate things. And when you get that baseline everyday nutrition right, and then we proactively add fuel into the training, if the training stops for whatever reason, then that extra food automatically goes. It is a lot simpler than a lot of people think, but this is where the mindset and the training your brain comes into it. Because if we're in a mindset of, no, I've got to restrict, I've got to be restrictive, I can't eat that, I can't eat that, I can't eat that, and under fueling your training, it actually puts you in that environment of situation where you're more prone to overeating and more prone to actually undoing all the changes and all the goals that you are working to. And so we want these instant results. However, it is the little daily habits and actions that really count and work and make the achievements towards our goals and our new habits. So whether you're wanting to build muscle or to lose weight, putting in the work and making these changes, giving it enough time is what's going to get there. If you want to lose 2 or 3 kilos, that might be 3, 4, 5, 6 months worth of effort to actually achieve that in a sustainable way. It's all well and good making the change and achieving the goal and only sticking for a week. Actually, you end up usually rebounding to where you were, or perhaps in a more in a worse off position than you had actually sort of started from. When it comes to weight loss, for example, I've had clients who were disappointed because they were only losing about half a kilo a week. However, when you extrapolate that over months and weeks or years, it cumulatively adds up to overall major changes. And even if there are periods of time when weight loss stalls and you're maintaining weight, then this actually can be helpful for you to let your body and your brain catch up. Because whenever we make an extreme change and our bodies see an extreme change, then we mentally, it's hard to stick with it. Like, I remember periods of time where I lost a lot of weight because I was sick or because I was really stressed. And looking back, I can see how it actually, subconsciously end up in this position of thinking, it's like, oh yeah, I can get away with eating that extra bag of lollies or chocolate. And these extra little foods sneak in because we forget about the good habits and the patterns that actually got us to the goal. But obviously when you're sick, that's a completely different scenario, but it wasn't sustainable, and it wasn't achievable with everyday life once that period of time had passed. And so I'm always encouraging people to look for trends rather than just individual weights, because weight as a number on an individual day can go up and down a lot. Like your weight can change by 2, 3, sometimes even 4 kilos over a 24-hour period, depending on if you've eaten, you've gone to the toilet, you've exercised, you've sweated, you're dehydrated, all these things. The number on the scale is just gravity. What we're looking for is body mass changes if that is your goal. And this changes in terms of fat mass, if you're changing your body composition, they're small micro amounts. It might be 10, 20 grams a day. You're not losing half a kilo of body fat a day. It's happening in these tiny little micro amounts on multiple days collectively over time. It's kind of like you got the bowl of rice bubbles. You take out one rice bubble or one Rice Krispie at a time. It doesn't make a difference. You don't notice the difference until you've taken out like 20% of them, 30% of them. But it's those little actions of taking one out at a time that actually is what gets you there. And this is why I recommend people to recognize progress and changes and have outcomes beyond just the number on the scale to help motivate you when you are seeing no change on the scale. Because if you aren't seeing change on your scale and that's your only outcome measure, it's very easy to get disappointed, to get demotivated, and to just give up. And so I've seen a number of clients this week we've been talking about this with, but then the weight on the scale hasn't changed. So then we're looking at what are the other things that have changed, that have improved, that are helping them to realize that the changes that they've made are actually real and good for them. And it can be things like they've got more energy, they've got more power. I had someone who did a 3-hour ride and had a 35 power watt increase in this long ride that he did. And it was like, this is insane. Like, this is amazing. All because of fueling training and fueling around the exercise that we're doing proactively rather than like reactively. And so when it comes to weight maintenance, what are the actions and behaviors that are helping you sustain it? For example, like over Christmas or holiday periods when people are eating out, or if you have to go away for work and you're doing a lot of travel with work, you might be in an environment where there's a lot more foods that are higher energy, and historically you might have gained a lot of weight in that period of time. I'm always liking to reframe maintenance as a win, because if you have historically gained weight and in this situation, because of the changes that you've made, you haven't, that is actually a massive change, because you are at a stable position. Maintenance is the hardest thing after all, because usually people achieve a goal and then give up and revert to their old habits. So maintenance is 100% a win. But for example, if over Christmas, these holidays, you maintained your weight in a period where you would have usually gained it, I always view that as a success. And I try and encourage my clients to, and you as well, to view that as a success as well, because you have changed the usual trajectory. And like I was talking about before, typically people gain 1 or 2 kilos a year over a decade. If you stop that trajectory of typically gaining that kilo every year because of these little micro changes that you've made, that's a massive win, because you may have maintained something sustainable for you. So maintaining weight is a massive win, but it's the hardest part for people to actually achieve and to stick with, which is why I'm always trying to refer to people and compare this to that Amazon order. It'd be amazing if we could like click our fingers and achieve it overnight, but realistically, it's unlikely that we're going to stick with it and achieve it in the long term if it happens really, really quickly. So when it comes to your nutrition goals this year, are your outcomes realistic? Have you got enough time in order to achieve those goals? Do you have multiple measures of success? And what are the changes that you are sticking through thick and thin, regardless of the environment or the stress or the chaos or whatever life throws at you? When you make changes that you can actually stick with, what you'll find is that you get that cumulative effect and progress that in 12 months' time, you'll look back and be really glad that you actually stuck through it. You may not have gotten it overnight, but sometimes you'll be able to achieve significantly more by those small little baby steps. That's all for today. Like, subscribe, fuel your ride, and I will see you next time.